that's got me umming and ahhing is the fight between Kell Brook and Frankie Gavin. It's quite funny because if anybody, obviously those who have followed my channel for a while, especially over at the at Bayloric before it became Bayloric TV Boxing Channel here now, will remember me joking and laughing and saying, you know what, Frankie Gavin versus Kell Brook, yeah, Kell Brook should fight Frankie Gavin. That means he'd clear up the welterweight division in Britain. That's what he should do. And I said, you know what, I can see Eddie Hearn making this matchup and making it for a pay-per-view event. I laughed and joked about it. It's a pay-per-view event. That, first of all, let's stop right there. It's a pay-per-view event. Top of the bill is Kell Brook versus Frankie Gavin. Excuse me? None of those two fighters really are big draws. I mean, they're okay. But I mean, okay, think Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, pay-per-view. Okay, I got it. Roy Jones Jr. versus Joe Kawasaki. I get it. I understand. Froch versus Groves. I get it. I understand. It's a good card because there's lots of world title fights and people fighting for titles and positioning. Great. But to be honest, considering the amount of crap that is on Sky Sports in terms of boxing, I call it the 90-10 channel. If you want to watch one-sided fights, check out Sky Sports Boxing. Check them out. It's 90-10. It's not. I should rename it the 90-10 channel, boxing channel, because what it is 90-10, and trainers that elevate themselves and think they're great when really and truly their fighters are in fights that they should win. And then it's 90-10 the other way as well, generally, because normally when they leave England and they go to the States, it's 90-10 in, like, for example, Brian Rose and like Gavin Reese. I mean, and what's the other one? Lee Purdy. Those are three examples of 90-10 fights. But you know, this is a good card in terms of what's going on now. You've got these guys that who fought for final eliminators and now fighting for world titles. I mean, it's great to see Frankie Gavin's got his opportunity finally to fight for the world title. And you know what? When I first looked at the fight, I thought, you know what? It's okay. Kell's just going to get out there, throw a right hand and take Gavin out of there. He's the bigger man. He's a stronger man to weight. And then I stopped. I thought, you know what? I'm thinking like a fan here. I'm not thinking logically. I'm logically thinking, you know, you've got Frankie Gavin, who was an excellent amateur. And then you look at Kell Brook's amateur career. You can't compare the two. Okay, Kell's big and strong. That's my mobile phone going off. You know, let me just... Okay. If you wanted to know, that was a tweet from my good friend on Twitter, the Martian Mauler. So, shout out to you. Where was I? Yes, I was talking about the actual Frankie Gavin and saying that his amateur career pedigree, you couldn't compare it to Kell Brook. Kell Brook is physically very strong and imposing figure at welterweight, no doubt. And his best punch for this fight is that straight right hand. If you look at a lot of Kell Brook's fights, you look at, in fact, all of his Kell Brook fights. Kell Brook fights the same in every fight. Kell Brook doesn't adjust that much. I mean, that straight right hand was his key. And like Kell Brook, his fight against Porter was good, and it was a very good performance against Porter. But you've got a different sort of opponent now, because this is the best, technically best fighter that Kell Brook has ever fought in his career. Up to this point, it's the best. There is nobody else, if you look at Kell Brook's resume, that can box as good as box. I'm not saying fight. I'm talking box, pure boxing skill. Frankie Gavin. And then I said to myself, you know what? Then the old questions came back. Oh, you know what? He's not big welterweight. He's not strong welterweight. But I've met Frankie Gavin, and Frankie, thank you so much on Twitter. Appreciate you. Um, you know, always there retweeting and stuff. Shout out to Frankie Gavin, and I met Frankie at a press conference. And the one thing that concerned me about Frankie Gavin when I saw him at a press conference, he was drawn. It was the Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora. He was meant to be fighting Bradley Skeet, and the way he was drawn, he looked old. And then he looked like a skeleton himself. And then he rehydrated, come after he weighed in, and looks quite strong then. And when I looked at his body, like body weight, like I'm saying, nah, man, you could get down to light welter. You're not welterweight. You can get down. I'm looking at him because I used to be a welter, and I look at him. I'm thinking. He said, look at this, mate. Look. I said, mate, you could get down to light welter. I looked at him, and physically, there's nothing left on him, and he's boiling down to make welterweight. So Frankie Gavin, I don't think we'll have to dispel the thing about him not being a bona fide welterweight. He is a welterweight. He may not be big in terms of frame, which is how Kell Brook is, but he's a welterweight, so there's no doubt about that. Is he strong at welterweight? Well, just look at his fight with Dental Vassell. Broke Dental Vassell's jaw with a straight left hand. Classy. Southpaw. I'd like to know what Kell Brook could have done against Bundu. Oh, yeah, Brook could have knocked Bundu out. Listen, Bundu was that strong. He made Keith Thurman box in reverse gear for the whole of the most of the fight. Keith Thurman was on his back foot. And you all know I love Keith Thurman, so I'm not making this up. He made Keith Thurman get on his back foot, and Keith Thurman's a bigger puncher that pound for pound than Frankie Gavin, and probably pound for pound bigger than Kell Brook, right? And he made Frankie Gavin. He made Keith Thurman move in reverse gear for that fight because Keith thought, you know what? I ain't standing trade with this guy. I'm not going to stand trade with this guy. So Keith must have felt something in the power of Bundu and must have felt something about Bundu up close. Now, bear in mind that Frankie Gavin stood in front of Bundu for that fight. And he stood in front of him. Yeah, he got hit with that wicked body shot and he got out. So physically, I think Gavin is a strong welterweight. He doesn't look it, but I think he's a strong welterweight. The fights he's had, let's be honest, he hasn't looked impressive in fights. In fact, if I'm really, really honest with you, Frankie Gavin has stunk the joint out. Really has stunk the joint out. There are fights you're watching Frankie Gavin, you're wishing, hoping, right, let's tune into Frankie Gavin tonight and I hope this is going to be a good fight. I'm being honest. So I turned to Frankie Gavin's fighting tonight. That kid's got skill. Start watching Frankie Gavin. And after 3 rounds, you're like, we're in the 8th round now. Frankie Gavin. And you know what? Frankie's, I don't know him personally. He seems a real likable guy. But the opponents he's fought, like Skeet, that was a... The Bundy fight was interesting because that Bundy brought it. Bundy brought the fight. And I can tell you something now. Kell Brook's going to bring the fight to Frankie Gavin. And I think that's going to make an exciting fight. Again, when he fought Witter, it's like two people you don't put in the same ring together. Frankie Gavin and Junior Witter. Like, if you want boredom, you get that. But now you've got for Kell Brook. And you're going to have Kell Brook coming straight at Gavin. Which means it's going to suit Gavin. I really do think that this is going to be a very good fight. I think you're going to see Brook and Gavin in a very exciting fight. I don't think Gavin's going to get the room to just coast in the fight. I believe this is a fight he's going to have to be up for. He's going to have to be 100% on the ball with. And he's now fighting a guy who I believe genuinely could knock him out. Right? So we'll put those things all into the equation. And I think Gavin's one of these guys who fights on nerves. I really do. And I just think that the nerves weren't there when he fought Witter. The nerves weren't there when he fought a lot of the guys he's fought. He just seems, I don't think his adrenaline was pumping. But his adrenaline will pump for this fight. And he has got his eye on the prize to become the IBF welterweight champion of the world. So I'm trying to take this fight away from the fact that Brook is physically very strong and a very, very menacing sort of presence as a welterweight. He's physically that strong. there are concerns again about Kell Brook. 12 rounds, he did well in out and when he beat Porter. I was really impressed with that because there were question marks about his stamina going back to the fight he had with Carson Jones. That's where we, that's where we started seeing things about him. We do know Kell Brook has no inside game whatsoever now, and that fight he had against Carson Jones, there were stamina issues. And the question is Kell Brook really a welterweight that can hang around at welterweight much longer? Because, he's taking his back-to-back fights. I suspect the reason why he's taking back-to-back fights so much is because he doesn't blow up in weight. I mean, Kell Brook, look, he's a welterweight. I've never met the guy, but from his frame, he looks like he could do light middle quite easy and possibly at a push middleweight. So, Brook looks like he can move up a couple of weight divisions. And, whereas Gavin, I think he's made his way at welter. I think, the second, if Gavin can take this fight into the second half of the fight, make Brook miss and make him pay, this could be an interesting fight. The bookies are going with Brook, and it sounds a logical thing, but I don't think Brook's a better. I don't think if you look at the two guys, I personally think Gavin's a better boxer than Brook. And the funny thing is about this fight is a lot of people talking about this fight. Before the fight was announced, people were saying, yeah, Brook should fight Frankie Gavin. He should fight Amir Khan, he should fight Frankie Gavin. Because then he cleans up the welterweight division. He should fight Brook and Gavin. When I say clean up the welterweight division, you've got Amir Khan there, who's fairly new to the welterweight division. So when I look at this fight, again, I think this fight is being overlooked because, I think other people are just on Brook's physical strength. It's a good fighter, very good fighter. But I think Frankie Gavin brings a real dangerous challenge. Gavin on his way up was looking decent, looked good. Copped a lot of bad press. His fight against Bundu, put it in perspective, like I said, Bundu was making Keith Thurman going in reverse gear throughout the fight. So, like I said, we don't know how Brook would have done against Bundu. And because he never fought him, so we can't say. You can have a guess and say, Brook would have knocked him out, blah, 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 blah. But Bundu's got a great inside game. Brook hasn't got a good inside game. So, the straight left hand, the keys to this fight, Gavin's straight left hand. Making Brook miss, making him pay. And for Brook, his straight right hand. That's a key. His straight right hand is key. Down on boxing skill or boxing ability. Because Brook hasn't, if you look apart from the Porter fight, who has Brook really fought in his career? Really, he hasn't fought anybody. Then when you look at Gavin and he's fought Ski, he's fought Witter, former world champion, he's fought Denta Vassell, who was unbeaten. Who else did he fight? So he's fought quite a few guys. So I think Gavin's getting a lot of stick for this fight, and I don't know why it's so negative. And I think it's a good fight. Who wins the fight? Now that's a different question. A lot of people are going with Brook to win the fight, and it's people saying an easy fight for Brook. Now I was one of those guys that bet against Brook when he fought against Carson Jones, and I said that Carson Jones would stop him late. And Carson Jones is technically not as good as boxer as Frankie Gavin. I don't think Gavin's going to get hit with the sort of shots that Carson Jones was getting hit with. If Gavin can absorb the punches and keep Brook missing, I think footwork wise, probably Gavin's got better footwork than Brook. See, I don't want to base it just based on power. I want to base it on boxing ability. And I think it's a tighter fight than a lot of people are giving it credit for. I think, I don't know. I think it's a close fight. I really think it's a close fight. I'm not gonna say anything yet, because I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, Brook's gonna knock him out, because I'm not confident in that. I'm not confident enough in that, and I think that Gavin's been overlooked. So there's a slight edge towards Brook, but it's not much. Hard one. It's hard for me, as I think that Jojo Dan or Yo-Yo Dan, this wasn't much of a fight. Shevchenko, the almost 40-year-old Shevchenko, was able to tag Brook and rock him. Now, how good Kell Brook's chin is, we still don't know. I don't know. Don't know. Brook did look impressive against Porter. I'll give him that. He did look against Porter. But this isn't Sean Porter he's fighting now. I think we're going to see the best of Frankie Gavin. I really do. I really do. It's the idea of Brook, either Brook being too strong at welterweight. That's my dilemma. Brook being too strong and overpowering Gavin. Or Gavin being physically strong enough at the weight, able to absorb, deflect a lot of Brook's best shots, being faster off feet, and able to make Brook miss and make him pay, and down the stretch outpoint Brook. And it's that's what's pulling me at the moment. It's like I'm like that. I'm with that. I want to say Gavin, because the reason why I'm going with Gavin, I think he's a better boxer. I think he's fought better level opposition. I think that Bundu's a better boxer than Porter, really. I think, because I think Bundu brings more to the table. And when I look at Kell Brook, the only thing I can really say is that Porter fight. It's that Porter fight that everybody talks about. That's the fight that Brooks looked really good in. That's his real sort of marking at world level where he's at. But you've got kind of like, well, you could say, well, Witter was former world champion. Okay, you know, you look at Bundu. Okay, he's European champion. And then some will say, well, he failed at European level. A point against a guy that, like I said, made Keith Thurman run backwards, and Keith Thurman's like almost like, I've been talking about him like the savior of the welterweight division. Even I have said, you know, that Keith Thurman, as big a puncher as he is, and he just fought Guerrero and beat Guerrero and put Guerrero on canvas. But he's still got a lot of work to do. Don't know. If it goes down to pure boxing skills, I'm going to go with Gavin, because I think Gavin's the best boxer that Brooks fought. I don't think Brook is the best fighter that Gavin's fought. Bearing in mind the world championships and all of that. That experience. And what he's done as an amateur, what they've achieved. That's where it is for me. The only thing is this Brooks' physical strength. That's it. That's it. You know what? And his straight right hand. That straight right hand down the pipe, I could see catching Gavin. But other than that, I think Gavin's got so much more to offer. And we haven't seen the best of Frankie Gavin. We could say we haven't seen the best of Brook. Don't know. Ooh. I'm going to gamble this one. I'm going to go with Gavin on points. But you see there, it's that other thing. If the fight does go to points, will they give it to Gavin? It's an in-house fight with Eddie Hearn. Will they give it to Gavin, or will they job him on the cards? Brooks being unbeaten, you know, does that play a part? Having that 0, that 0, you know, wanting him to fight Brandon Rios next? I don't know. I see Gavin as a better opponent than Brook than Rios, because Rios is a welterweight. He's a walking punch bag. This guy, Gavin, actually can box. I'm going to go Gavin. Boxing. I'm going to go boxing. Over power and physicality, I'm going to go boxing. I think that Gavin's got the ability to slide off of Brooks' punches. and be able to counter well. So I'm going to go with that. The counter puncher gets counter punched. Going with Gavin, points. Yeah. Frankie Gavin, points. I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me there, but I'm going to go with a guy who's got, I think, the better boxing skills. Brook is probably stronger at the weight, but I think Gavin hits harder than people are giving him credit for. And the way he did what he did to Vassell, who I thought was quite strong at the weight. Yeah, I'm not saying Vassell's better than Brook. I'm just saying he broke Vassell's jaw. So you're going to have some amount of punch power. And he's an accurate puncher as well. So I'm going Gavin points. I'm not going to say Gavin stoppage, but I'll go Gavin points. Down the stretch, I think he takes over. I think he frustrates Brook. Yeah, I'm going with that. Definitely. Let me know what you guys think. I'm out.